Hi,
everybody. Thank y'all for joining us today. I have a very special guest. I have Miss Sylvia Reynolds-Blakely with us from Arise Daughter, and I'm very excited to have you with us today. I'm gonna share with our audience how I stumbled upon you. But we are in the same online abortion network group, I guess. And one thing that always stood out is that you always greeted and responded to people who were hurting with abortions in their past or who hadn't really healed or started that journey. You always were compassionate, and everything you posted, everything you commented, it was just so kind, and you could tell it was from your heart with love. And I was very in awe of that. So thank you for putting yourself out there and always, responding with kindness. So anyway, side note.
That humbles me. Thank you.
All right. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, let's see. The simple answer is I am one of 7 children. My mom and dad grew us up in Detroit, Michigan, which was a very vibrant city. A lot going on all the time. We had an amazing neighborhood. My dad was, block club president, and we took a lot of pride in who we were, what we did, and that kind of thing. And so I just always had really good memories of, being one of a whole bunch of kids on the block kind of thing. And we would, play outside all the time, drink from the water hose, all the things we tell our kids not to do now, ride our bikes off for hours. But it really was a good training ground for being an independent person, an independent thinker. Now, that was all good until later on in my life when, I kind of started taking a lot of the decisions that are major about life into my own hands because of my independence. And so we can talk about that in a little bit. But for the most part, just a girl that loved being in a big family and began to know the love of God at about 4 years old. Yeah, I can remember sitting on my front porch and just hearing him sing over me. And I know it was things, that I had never heard before. They weren't church songs that I knew, but they would just make my heart kind of quiver and I would cry. And so I knew that he had his eye on me. I just didn't know who he was exactly. And so maybe around 9 or 10, I started going to church with the family up the street. My parents weren't much of a church going family at the time. My mother told me later that she was kind of forced into going to church, and so that kind of soured her about the experience. So she swore she'd never force her kids to go to church, but I found him anyway. And made my way to church. And I can remember just knowing that was where I was supposed to be. I know that was how my life was going to go straighter than I could have imagined otherwise. And at 12 years old, I gave my life to Christ. And but again, didn't quite know exactly what all of that meant. And so just kind of followed along with everybody else, I think, until I got into my teens and went off to college. And then things kind of changed a lot. So, yeah.
Pretty normal, right? Most people go off the beaten path about that time. So.
Yeah, that's so true. And you don't really get sent with a roadmap, right? You just kind of get sent with a few dollars and call me if you need me kind of a thing. And it was like, figure it out. Well, now we know, the brain isn't quite developed enough to figure out a whole lot of anything except for how to get ourselves fed and get to bed. So I think that is a really vulnerable time. And again, we can talk about that a little bit more as we talk about the healing journey, but that's a really vulnerable time for young people to be faced with so many major decisions. And of course, one of the decisions I was faced with was a life or death one.
You want to tell us a little more about that, or?
Yeah. So
if you're comfortable.
I am. And I think I'll preface it a little bit by saying that there were some other things that happened in my youth on this happy-go-lucky neighborhood block that marked me. And one was a molestation at the age of 9 at the hands of a neighborhood friend. And you're not really sure, I think, when you're that young at what all that means. But it does give you a skewed sense of who you are. And so, so you walk forward with that, really not, again, having really any healing. I didn't tell anybody. It was shameful. It was something that I think would have split our close families apart. And so I just kept it to myself. And that became a pattern as I got older. So when I went to college and my very first boyfriend, he and I became sexually active pretty soon. And that was my first actually consensual relationship. And so we had been dating maybe almost 3 years, and we're just about to break up. And we had sex one more time. And as we were breaking up, the condom actually broke as well. So yeah, so we were using what we thought was going to be, the foolproof protection, and
Right.
obviously it wasn't. So then I'm faced with the decision coming into my junior year of college, what I would do. And it was pretty clear to me in my independent thinking mind that what wasn't going to happen was that I was going to be a single mom. There was no support from him. I did tell him. He was one of the first phone calls I made. And I also called my sister, who at that time was abortion minded as well. And so she helped me arrange everything. And that summer, instead of going home like the dutiful daughter I typically was every summer, I went to Ann Arbor, Michigan, and had an abortion. And she helped me recover physically, but I never dealt with my emotional issues afterwards. As a matter of fact, I can't even say that I knew that they were connected to the abortion, because I thought I was exercising my female rights, and took that life and death decision into my own hands, and did not honestly feel a lot of regret about it. I felt like I just needed to go on with my life, and fulfill that dream that I thought I had, which was to become a nurse, have a successful career, eventually get married, and maybe have a family. Didn't know what God was going to bring me with that, but that didn't quite work out the way that I thought. And I think that's one of the things that you realize as you're walking through this healing process, is that sometimes God takes, a detour with your life that you started, but he brings you back in a way that you just could never have imagined. And so I did get married, but we never had children. And so now I think I call myself the super aunt, but still, I could begin to tell that there was this void in me about not having my daughter. And so that started a 20-year process of being angry, being bitter, resentful, not being around other people's kids, all of these things. And I'd never connected it really with my abortion until God kind of nudged me and said, Sylvia, it's time for you to really look at this. And I thought, Lord, I don't, I really don't want to. But he showed me through another woman that was a coworker of mine what unconditional love looked like. And we never talked about my abortion. She never knew. I don't even know if she knows now. I guess if she follows me on Facebook, she would know what she did for me. But
Aw.
it was more about God's love and compassion. I think that took me to that place where I wanted to ask for forgiveness about the abortion. And then that started the cascade toward healing.
You have a very beautiful testimony. And I feel like a lot of the participants that we've seen through CARE have a very similar experience, in that they have these feelings that they don't connect right away to their past abortion. And, it takes decades before they have that moment where they're like, oh, it all makes sense now, and a lot of times people think that CARE, that we see participants right after they've had their abortion, but that's never the case. It's always 20, 30 years later.
Mm-hmm.
I thank you for sharing that, because I know that there are a lot of people who can relate to that, and they don't know that yet.
Yeah. And for 20 years, my husband just caught the brunt of most of it. And I think that's part of, a lot of our journeys, like you just said, those who are closest to us, who may know a little bit of our story, but again, they are not skilled enough to connect the dots either. They're just dealing with, the roots of a past issue that they didn't maybe even have anything to do with. And so, and then our kids, and our families and all of that it ends up being a really negative ripple throughout those
Right.
people that we're connected to because of our lack of healing. Yeah.
Right. Very much so. And so you did eventually seek help and healing. What prompted you to do that? What was it in your life that you're like, okay, Is there a precise moment when you're like, okay, I'm going to do this? Or was it kind of just a gradual, slow process?
Yeah, I would say between the time that I asked for forgiveness, and then I went through the healing program was almost another 20 years. So I guess you could say it was gradual.
I guess so.
And honestly, I didn't know abortion healing was even a thing, Kara. I had never heard anybody talk about it. Certainly, it wasn't something that I shared. People didn't share it with me. It was just one of those dirty little secrets that a lot of us, especially church women, just kept. We just didn't, we just never divulged it. And so when I asked for forgiveness and began getting back right with God, I think there was just this push. He was slowly pushing me toward, getting things completed, like making my marriage stronger and getting tighter with my parents and getting to know my family more and getting to know him more. And so as I began to get hungrier for those kinds of things, he finally got me to that place where he said, okay, there's one other thing I need you to do, daughter. And that's when I came across this program called Healing Grace. It was at a women's conference. And so, yay for women's conferences, because sometimes, there are people there who you just need to see. You don't always have to, connect with in a deep way, but sometimes you just need to have things on your radar. And they were there. And I just very surreptitiously went and grabbed a card. I didn't say anything to the woman representing the booth. It wasn't that time. But there was a couple weeks where I just sat with it. And then God began to show me. He said, Sylvia, I know you're in these other leadership positions at your church. He said, but I want you to step down from those because I have a greater work for you. And I thought, now what could that be other than this? It just has to be this, And he said, yeah, it's that. He said, and I want you to go through a marriage reconciliation program at the same time. And I thought, now that sounds like a lot, God. I don't think I can do all of that. And he was like, no, you need to understand, daughter, one is going to support the other one.
Very cool.
And I said, okay. So I just mapped off January through April, and my husband and I started a marriage reconciliation program. And at the same time, I was going through Forgiven and Set Free, which is the curriculum that Healing Grace used. No. And as I journaled and cried and prayed, my husband, who now was we were getting closer because of what we were going through with the marriage reconciliation, could understand what all of that anger and bitterness and, all those roots, what they were connected to. And that's what God had in mind. He needed me healed and he wanted me supported during the healing. Isn't that just amazing?
It just when you look back at his work and the seeds that he plants, and you look back on your life and you're like, gosh, I could not have imagined anything better, than this. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
So good.
There is just no way he would have gotten what I was going through had he not been going through a little something himself, which was, trying to, strengthen our marriage. And so they just kind of combined. There was this synergy that then gave me the wind that I needed underneath my wings to get started with the ministry, which is what the Lord planted in my heart when I got done with Forgiven and Set Free.
Which is what I want to talk about next. A little bit about Arise Daughter. It's a beautiful ministry, and talk a little bit about it.
Okay. Well, I tell you, when I came out of the healing through Forgiven and Set Free, my hair was like on fire. I was just like, oh, what can I do, Lord, for you? You've removed so much heaviness and you've made my yoke so much lighter. What can I do for you? How can I serve you? And I can remember right after I got done with my 8-week session that I didn't want to let those women go. I just kept like texting them. And I'm sure the facilitators were like, she just needs to stop because, we're done. We need to move on to the next.
I don't think they feel that way. I don't think so.
So I just kept texting. I even created this chat group and, but and then I started thinking, I thought, well, if I feel that way, if I feel like I still want to stay in community, maybe there's other women who feel that way too. I can't be alone in this, right? And so I started, just kind of asking around, and really nobody was doing that kind of aftercare. And so the woman who took me through Forgiven and Set Free, she happened to tell me about Support After Abortion's conference, the very first conference they had. And And so I attended that online, of course. It was, smack in the middle of COVID.
Right.
And I think there were 63 presenters. I went back and listened to 62 of the 63 presentations. Like, I just kept thinking, there's something that God needs me to hear. He needs me to learn, and he needs me to see where my place is. And so as I began to listen, there really were maybe only one or two aftercare, programs that I heard mentioned. And so I just started reaching out to people. Literally, I have this notebook like this with contact information, emails, and I just started letting people know what I wanted to do and who I was, and people started emailing me back, and I started conversations and then began to build relationships. And then I went to the second conference, and I could see that I was going to have some mentors, and so I just started asking questions, and people started pouring into what we wanted to do. And when I mentioned that God had given me a vision about using art as a healing mechanism, I didn't even know what that meant. I had no clue. He was just like, this is going to be a house with many rooms, Sylvia, and two of the rooms you're going to start off with are an art healing room and a pro-life advocacy room. And I thought, okay, so this is going to be more than just healing. And so one of the women on the call who was pouring into me mentioned that she thought the art piece was unique, and she really wanted to hear more about it. Now she's one of my team members, and so she and I began to. I know she and I began to talk, and so she was just a place for me to vision cast on, and she was, just very respectful of my vision, but also was pouring into me what she was seeing. And so then we began this portion of it that I had no idea would even take off like it did. My cousin designed our logo, and that came from a conversation where I just happened to share with her finally my testimony. One of the things that I'd asked God before we got started 2 years ago this month was if he could make a way for me to have the important conversation about my testimony with everybody that was important in my life. And he did that. He did that. It was only, I think, one niece that I wasn't able to talk to before we actually launched, but everybody else I was able to have a conversation with. And one of them was my cousin, who ended up designing our logo after she told me her testimony, which she had never told anybody.
Isn't that insane how that just unfolds right in front of you?
Exactly. So she designs this logo, and she thinks that's all she's going to be doing. Now she's our artist in residence. And so she helps vision cast for us. So it's just been an incredible 2 years. If there's no way I could have scripted all of this. As we've gone on, we've been able to develop the artist part of it now. And so ariseartists.com now has its own its own placeholder on Google. It takes you back to arisedaughter.org right now, but for right now, that's what we need to do because we're one entity. But we are going to be showcasing the art more. We have painters, we have poets, we have people who collage, we have fabric artists. It's just growing. Just recently met a young woman who is into glass art mosaics, and so she's going to be coming into the fold, I do believe, God willing. From my mouth to your ears, Lord. And so that was how it was, Kara. I just kept seeing in my vision women walking toward Arise Daughter and being able to contribute. And not that I would stay the leader, so to speak, but that I would kind of be like a house mom for all of these rooms that will eventually open with other people who will be leading them. That's what I see.
Very beautiful. And I'm excited because I've started to follow you, visit your site and follow the artwork, and y'all had an art show recently, right? Did I make that up? So it's just really cool to see you grow and to see women come to you and you able to be there and mentor them and feel that hole that we don't have, So thank you for that.
Yeah, I say you're welcome, but I just, just knowing how Holy Spirit has held this until we were ready to receive it and then fully step into it, as we did with this very first gallery show, is just amazing to me. He gave me the vision for it last October. And it was kind of after we got poked by a particular artist that we had invited to be on our Rice Artists meeting stage. Her name is Angela Forker. and she's a photographer out of Indiana. She is not post-abortive, but God gave her the vision to do like pre and post photographs of women who are post-abortive, and to show them what God, yes, in a photographic way, what God has done for them in their
Very
redemption
cool.
and reconciliation. I know.
I have to
So
check that out.
we get to meet her, and then she comes on stage and she spends this hour and a half, 2 hours with us. And she started saying, she said, Sylvia, I can just see you guys using your art for, as a pro-life mouthpiece. What do you think about that? And I thought, well, I didn't think about it like that. I just thought we were having fun making art. And God sat me down immediately. That was September. He sat me down immediately. He said, that's why I asked you to form those 2 rooms in particular, because they were going to, yes, they were going to intertwine. And I thought, okay,
We
Lord,
did it
just
again,
show me exactly, show me what that looks like. And he said, your art is going to completely morph and change, and he said, it's going to be inspired by me and is going to speak toward life issues. And I thought, okay, that I understand. And so immediately he downloaded like 4 pieces into me. Like that November,
Wow.
I had 4 pieces done, and I started sharing the vision with the other Arise artists, and they began to get behind it. And then he started downloading into them and downloading, and he's still doing it.
I love
And
it.
so we picked October because it was a year after the vision, as our very first art show in Columbus, Ohio, at a church that we didn't particularly have an affiliation with. One of my members, her daughter attends there, but she's not even a member. But we just pitched the idea to the pastor, and he said, "Sure, come on in."
So,
Who does that? So so we had this big, beautiful sanctuary in an area and a time to really, um, I guess you could say, really help minister to women in that ministry of reconciliation. Our art started the conversations. We didn't even have to open our mouths, Kara.
how beautiful. That's
Yeah.
so, like, it blows my mind just to think about that, because art has such a huge impact on all of our lives already, and to have that available, and like you said, to not have to say anything, just to let the art speak and move, let the Lord through art move the conversation.
Yes. I mean,
Very
we had women
powerful.
who were revealing for the very first time. So we were able to, lay hands on, pray. One of our members began to prophesy over pretty much everybody that came in the door, and that was a gift that she thought she had, but he fully developed that because we chose to pray and fast for 30 days
Wow.
prior to the events, and so our very last day of fasting and prayer was the day we hung the art. So he'd emptied us up and he'd prepared us for the work that was ahead. And so now we have a real sense of what it is he's asking us to do, because we've seen it now come alive. We've seen the fruition of his vision, and we've seen the faithfulness over this last 12 months. And so we're ready to go. We are ready to go. I just ordered mini table banners for 4 different women on our team in 4 different states that I know he's going to open doors up. And we're going to have, I am almost certain, 4 different shows next year in the states that we have team members. I know I'm getting goosebumps just sitting here talking about it, because it's crazy. But this is what he knows and he knew the landscape, right? He knew what was going to be happening with Roe, and he knew what was going to be happening with now these, amendments and all of these things that are coming. He knows the kind of healing that women are going to need. And so he's just preparing, ministries like ours to get ready, because we're going to need to be
Yes,
ready.
I
Yeah.
absolutely agree with you. And we've seen just from the calls and emails after Roe versus Wade was overturned, we've seen an increase, and I know it's coming. I know he's
Mm,
us, and that's why I was really happy or glad that you were willing to have the conversation with me, to keep that network, to keep that open, because now people know, hey, there's help everywhere. It's not just in East Texas. There's help in Florida. There's help all over the place, and we're trying to form that network to just be there for whoever comes our way. We know where to help you or where to send you.
exactly. He was very clear about our mission. He said, you are not to charge anybody for what it is you do. My healing doesn't cost, so your healing won't cost. he said, but I will make sure that you are provided for no matter where you go. And so far that has been the case. I've been to Washington, D.C. this year. I've been to Arkansas, been to Mississippi, mostly more for Arise Daughter, but with the artist piece, he's already set aside provision for us to be able to travel to different areas, and then hopefully maybe set up, our own little area where we can continue to minister in, in that state or in that province or whatever through art. And so I know I sometimes get a little overexcited, I guess, about what he's doing, because you have to walk it out, and of course you have to be obedient. But you're right. I feel the same way. I feel this tsunami of women who will be coming our way, who will need different ways to heal.
Right.
Because you're right. The woman who's 20 and 30 years out, they are very, very important. They are going to be the harvesters and the workers. But these women who are 2 and 3 days out, oh my gosh, where they can't even put into words, Kara, how they feel, who still haven't parsed out, what's really happened to them. Right. They're going to need different ways to heal than what we've traditionally been doing. And what we've been doing is amazing. It's amazing. But God just wants to add to it.
Right. And let's let him, I commend you for being open, because it's scary to take off on a whole new venture. And for, I'm fearful. I'm like, are you sure? Are you sure, Lord? I'm like the doubting Thomas. Okay. I'm like, sure you want me to do that? And then when we say yes, and he opens those doors, and you're protected, he catapults you farther than you would have ever imagined. And it's just being obedient, saying yes, reminding ourselves to be obedient and say yes.
Yes.
He does. As long as we are in his hands, he's got us,
Yeah.
I am just very impressed with everything that you've done. And in 2 years, like, that's not very long. You have done so much in 2 years by saying yes to the Lord. It's really been an honor to be part of that journey with y'all. And now we have listeners and viewers who get to participate and follow along with you. Can you tell them your address again, your web address again, or where they can contact you or get you, or work online and things like that?
Yes, of course. You can stalk us if you want to. However, whatever you want to do. You can reach us at arisedaughter.org or ariseartists.com. I'm reachable by Gmail, arisedaughter@gmail.com. And I'm more than willing to sit down and talk with you one-on-one, or if you're interested in our trauma art facilitation, which is something new that we're doing this year. We're just getting started with this. 3 of us are now trauma art facilitators. And so we are able to walk a small group through an art project that helps them look at their healing, where God is taking them, and where they want to go. So it's really excited about that. We get a big boost with that in December, as we get to offer 4 classes in December. So looking forward to working with whoever would like to have us as part of their healing program. So excited about that.
Thank you so much for taking your time and talking with us and sharing your story and sharing what's going on in your life. And it's always a pleasure to talk to you. And I'm very blessed to know you and to have come across you in such a random way online, just seeing comments and words that stuck out, and so I'm just very thankful that we have crossed paths and that we can just keep facilitating that healing that the Lord has in store for so many. So
thank you, Kara, and thank you for all that you do for the kingdom. I know that God notices and that he will continue to be faithful to care.
Oh, thank you. All right. Thank you guys for watching. If you remember to check out Sylvia's website at Arise Daughter.
Bye.
Bye.